If you had 3 apples and one was named Jeremy, would you eat Jeremy or one of the other 2 apples? Hello there and welcome to the Superbreak showcase, where I will go from every single character that's released since launch and see how they work in the Superbreak team setup. Does a runway replacement actually exist? Is Gallagher really the universally best sustained? Or is there another Superbreak DPS that may even compete with uhhh and Firefly? And of course, Harmony MC stays because that's how Superbreak works, you can't really replace them. And without further ado, let's start from the top.
Noise.
Oh yeah, can't really test those two, can I? The concept of trying out Harmony MC in a Superbreak team is non-existent, because they are the Superbreak team. But for the sake of it, I'll go over all of the stuff that she does, outside of literally enabling Superbreak for your team. With her E4, ult up and a watchmaker set, the amount of break effect that she buffs the entire team with is over 100%. Which is a lot. Her personal toughness break damage is absolutely nothing to scoff at, being able to deal some very high amounts of damage. Needless to say, the main way Superbreak works is by converting toughness damage into raw damage. That said, there are some trickeries about how Superbreak interacts. Let's say you attack an enemy that has 15 toughness. No, not again! Just don't get sidetracked, this is not supposed to be a fucking guide, just skip ahead.
Check out this awesome move!
Somewhat recently, March 7th has had a massive boom in the Superbreak meta, with people using her left and right, so of course I had to try her out for myself. So anyways, as a nice preservation character, March 7th is clearly trying to fight Gallagher as the sustain role in the Superbreak team. While I would say she's a bit harder to build than Gallagher, thanks to requiring a decent amount of defense and not really having great lightcon options, I can definitely see why people have been using her so much. Thanks to her counters and ult, March generates a lot of energy and does in general a lot of toughness damage. Her ult having the ability to freeze people also adds as a weakness break extension, much like Ruan may. In a scenario where the enemy is weak to ice but not fire, March definitely outperforms Gallagher in a Superbreak team. The biggest downside that March has is that her counters only activate if she's getting attacked, meaning that it only works when the enemy isn't already broken. Her direct Superbreak damage is pretty good, that said, she does lack the ability to stack break effect as high as Gallagher. She's primarily good for breaking the enemies down first and letting your DPS do majority of their damage when the enemy is already down, then potentially perpetually extending the enemy's weakness broken state with freeze. Albeit trying to build effect hit rate, defense and ER on her, as well as break effect and speed is definitely not an easy task. But have you considered just rolling better?
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. No!
I must say, Heng has a surprising amount of qualities in his kit that make him pretty good for Superbreak. What he lacks in raw toughness reduction, he more than makes up for in a lot of utility. His skill has a solid chance to slow the enemy by 20%, which helps for extending weakness break. Although a bit hard to play around, his talent's resistance penetration also applies to the Superbreak damage he deals, which is a fairly solid increase in damage for Superbreak. He gets a trace passive that can increase his speed. With his E4 he can get an extra turn anytime he kills someone with his ult, which can trigger off of Superbreak damage. Oh, and now he has the potential to deal a pretty solid amount of damage with Superbreak. But more than anything else, he has the utility to act very often. I know the footage you're looking at isn't necessarily him doing insane damage, but bear with me, he's not exactly leveled. But I truly do believe that Heng has the power to be a very good Superbreak carry. That said, to truly make him shine, he may require a bit more of an unorthodox team that maybe doesn't work with Ruan May. Something tells me that as the future progresses, he may find a better Superbreak team, with other support characters working better with him. But for now, my boy can cook. Sadly, I also don't think I'm the right chef for the job. If you wanna make it work, I believe it's quite possible.
I might have...
Lick my balls.
I alone am left in this wasteland, as the sole Asta Truther, still standing after a year of this game. Or well, at least until they make Katarina playable. Asta stays as best waifu. No other character they've released dares to compete with the sass, the gatekeep girl boss, Asta from Black Clover. Asta may just be the most straightforward character to explain for Superbreak team. Her ult is very good, a full team speed boost that just helps a lot with Superbreak in general. Her skill was a blast that can Her skill was a bounce that can do a very solid amount of toughness damage. The biggest quote-unquote flaw with Asta is that she wants to run memories to the past. That light cone lets her stack break effect and energy a very solid amount, with a big caveat being that Harmony MC much prefers having that light cone. But even without her personally doing a lot of break damage, her speed and general toughness reduction is quite nice. That said, that's all she does provide to her break team, is what I'd normally say if Firefly didn't exist. Being the second girlfriend, even Yajuu the goat could not go unswayed. Asta's other big bonus that most other teams beyond Superbreak take advantage of is her great team-wide attack boost. And thanks to Firefly existing, that attack boost is quite noteworthy. If you don't have Ruan, Asta seems to be one of the better substitutes for a Firefly team. That said, once again, there's not much to talk about. The only other very mildly noteworthy thing to talk about Asta is her trace that gives her a bird on her basic attack, which is only really useful if you pair her up with people that rely on debuffs, or specifically Guanaifen. Okay, wait, future Samsung here. Literally just after waking up and having finished the Asta section, this drops. So anyway, Asta found dead in a ditch's best rifle. The man, the myth, OURLAN, the king himself. Needless to say, there's no way he's getting anywhere under 1,000,000 damage. Oh boy, I'm excited for this. Okay, let's immediately jump into the showcase and let's see how he performs.
You're in the way. It's more than you to say.
That's all you've got?
Man, I really thought he was gonna do more damage. I mean, OURLAN's insane damage coupled with the fact he's entirely skill point neutral, with a really low energy cost ultimate, makes him a god-tier Superbreak candidate you cannot go wrong with. That said, I know it looks somewhat pathetic to his normal form and his crit damage multiplier just being so insanely good, it really does bring down the overall build.
Learned your lesson? You're in the way. We've entered a storm. Is that all you got? Let me pay you back. Tenfold!
The dice have been cast. Bust.
Is that all you got? Let me pay you back. Tenfold! As you wish. Sorry. Yes.
The favorite couch defender mommy has definitely gotten a lot out of Superbreak. Her kit already being very break focused and very AoE targeted, coupled with the content that they feed us thanks to Firefly existing, has led to a massive resurgence for Himeko just being way too good. MOC top tier pick, Pure Fiction best pick. Apocalyptic Shadow, a bit worse, still really good. There's no endgame where she's bad, whether it be the Superbreak team or her general crit team with Robin. But I'm not here to toot her horn, I'm here to tell you why that's the case. Himeko actually does not have a lot of toughness break potential, at least if you look at it in raw single target. The biggest reason she's good actually goes back to Harmony MC herself. One of the very important traits that she has that most people forget about is that a total Superbreak multiplier goes up the less enemies are on the field.
I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good...
Meaning that having an AoE carry that can very quickly get rid of the smaller enemies helps a lot. Harmony MC and Gallagher both help severely for covering Himeko's weakness in single target, even if the content wasn't heavily skewed towards weakness break and fire currently. As long as the enemy is all weak to fire, Himeko cannot perform badly. And honestly, the difference between Topaz and Robin and HMC and Ruan is very little. Other thing to note with all my testings of Himeko is literally my first ever 5-star character I've pulled, and the only standard banner character I have idoled of. Also, I may or may not have her her light cone of S3. And on that note, I wanna say that whatsoever, her build does not change if you wanna run her Superbreak or follow-up. Her crit build is just always gonna be superior. Last thing I'll say is that if you do wanna run Himeko in pure fiction, it gets a bit more difficult. Because it's very rare for every single enemy in pure fiction to be weak to the same element. If you wanna run her hyper carry with a sustain, a single batch of enemies that's not weak to fire can severely slow down the clear. On the other hand, if you entirely forego sustain, then run either Herta or Jade. It's extremely effective and entirely covers her weakness. Thanks to Ruan, Mei and Harmony MC, the enemy will be delayed for so long by the time you reach the boss, no one's even gonna attack you, making the team relatively safe. And that's that for our mother-loving, coffee-sipping couch mom.
The groove takes it over.
You may be curious what my order consistency is with everyone. The answer is I don't even properly know myself, but how can I put Welt anywhere besides after Himeko? Traversing past even the world itself to go buy milk, for the sake of saving that which he never could. You could say that he never truly let her go. There's a plethora of things Welt can do for a Superbreak team, but what exactly is he trying to do? A hyper carry? Possible, but it will take a lot of effort. Ruan Mei? Of course not, and a sustain is by far the best he can be. Does that mean he's better than Gallagher? Absolutely not. But it's the March situation all over again. If the enemy's weak to imaginary and not fire, well, he's gonna be better than Gallagher. Welt's main gimmick is slowing everyone down, and he's so good at it that on the right build he can cancel the enemies entirely. His ult has a chance of landing imprisonment, a powerful debuff that delays the enemy's actions by a flat 40%. Reduces their speed, and even has the power to cancel their extra actions. Generally, if you play around him right, the second you apply imprisonment on the enemy, they're not getting another action for the entire rest of the combat. But another big thing that comes in play is his skill's chance to reduce speed. Well, it stacks quite well with his delay. His talent is pretty useless for a break build. You absolutely never want to run crit Welt for a break team. He simply requires far too many stats to build, and his crit build is way too costly already. Both Gallagher and Welt give a 12% vulnerability on the enemy with their ultimate. Gallagher's one is limited to break damage, Welt's one is universal. Offensively, both Welt and Gallagher are very equal in their respective situations, the difference being that Welt is much less skill point positive. If you're able to get past his skill point hungry nature, he can definitely be a top tier pick. Okay bro, this is like cool and all, but what the fuck was this tonal shift? I think the groove took over the start. Oh yeah, right. Honestly, I'm not very qualified to talk about how good she is. I've seen through time people achieve some amazing and insane stuff with Herta, zero cycling MOC stages, and showing that she can definitely be a bit more than just an AoE bot. But the same people also complain about how the content now is a bit too hard to do what she used to be able to. My Herta is not very leveled, and Apoc is a bit too hard for me to even attempt with. That said, I have also seen her perform exceedingly well in the previous Apoc Shadows, being better than even Jingli on average if you know how to use her. Specifically on her Superbreak build at that. But needless to say, the place where she's gonna shine the most, regardless of Superbreak or general crit, is pure fiction. Where she's, 4,
3, 2, let's improvise.
Yeah, that. Mind you, that's still my level 60 Herta, doing probably half damage thanks to break scaling. In AoE, her toughness reduction is probably the best out of all her edition characters, being able to stack it basically exponentially the more enemies there are. As an absolute AoE devastator, I would say Herta has a lot of potential as far as Superbreak, but at least in the current rotation I wouldn't say she's exactly thriving. Again, I'm not very qualified to talk about her, I never really built her, and I already have way too many audition characters. With one more coming.
Yo, it's Silverwolf. I know most of you guys know me from my gaming streams, but I've decided...
もう貴様の番だ。うせろ! Silverwolf. There's a big fun factor in her playstyle, sadly not in the slightest outweighed by the RNG hell that she also provides you with. Everything about Silverwolf's kit makes her good for Superbreak. All type resistance shred, element specific resistance shred, a fuck ton of defense reduction, a speed reduction, an attack reduction that comes in surprisingly useful, an amazing toughness reduction. Silverwolf has such a high potential ceiling that I feel like there's a 0.0001% chance that there's ever a situation where she's better than Ruan May, which is more than I can say for any other character in the game. But okay, let's run it down from the top. Her biggest and most obvious perk, the only thing most people really believe she has of value. They're wrong, by the way. It's her weakness implant. Besides, implanting a weakness. Compared to Firefly and Bootho's weakness implant, she definitely does have one other major plus. Being that baseline, she also just reduces the resistance of anyone she implants weakness on by 20%, which is the same amount of resistance anyone generally has for just not being weak to a said element. Furthermore, Silverwolf is able to reduce the enemy's all-type resistance by up to 13%, thanks to her skill's secondary scaling and a trait she has. Albeit individually they're minor and they have conditions to work around them, the 13% total damage increase is most definitely worthwhile to play around. Her talent is also very important. An enemy speed decrease normally isn't the biggest thing, but with a Superbreak team, this genuinely can help a lot. The additional defense reduction that her talent can randomly provide also massively helps for stacking Shred. Thanks to the Cavalry 4-piece set, plus her ult and bug defense reduction, she can basically make your team do true damage with Superbreak on her own, while her skill and ult provide a solid amount of toughness damage. And thanks to that, when Superbreak was first introduced into the meta, there were a lot of people trying no DPS teams using Silverwolf, making Gallagher, HMC and Silverwolf herself respectively do a ton of Superbreak damage. Me personally though, I don't really ever use her for Superbreak. I could, but I mean, why would I even pay to exist? And on that note, let's address her massive fucking flaws. Unlike Welt, where I can say that if you have 100 EHR, your debuff application is as good as guaranteed, with Silverwolf it's a lot more not the case. How I generally just run Silverwolf on a purely supportive build, with over 120 EHR, and even then, her debuff application is very inconsistent. Her bugs have a low chance of application, there's multiple different ones that you need to gamble for. Because of her massive EHR needs, it also means that she's generally less tanky. Because of her skill point negative nature, it means that your sustains have generally less SP to try to sustain your team. Maybe the enemy was a tad bit too fast, maybe they were a tad bit too slow. Maybe if you had her attack down bug, you would have survived that attack. Or on the opposite spectrum, maybe she didn't get hit enough and you don't have enough energy to actually apply her defense down when your burst is just about to commence. There's so much that can go wrong, so much that can go right, and so many choices you can make using her. But unironically, it's more of a skill issue than an RNG issue. I am too shit at the game to properly play Silverwolf because there's so many things to keep in track with her that it really puts your knowledge of the game to the test. Maybe you don't even need the tutorial light cone for the extra energy sometimes. With the resolution light cone, she has so much defense down that combined with a cavalry set, you do just deal true damage, which is a massive damage increase. I love complicated characters in this game that make you truly think about your playstyle. And honestly, just talking about her right now has made me want to invest more into her and play her a bit more than I normally do. Kafka! A very solid character for Superbreak, thanks to the sheer synergy of DOT with Ruan May, and ironically a character I don't actually have and I can't test yet. The reason it being annoying is that she's rerunning in a couple of days. The day one player that's free to play life's not the easiest. I may have lost my 50-50 both times up until now, but this time I'm gonna win it, I'm gonna get her, and it's gonna be that easy. You wanna know why?
Because I'm supposed to.
So for now, the testing will be a bit more surface level. But future me will inform you how my post went, if you're curious. Portrayed by the Tecton clip that you're about to see now. Kafka's greatest strength for a Superbreak team is that she can do both solid DOT damage and Superbreak damage thanks to Ruan May. Her general toughness damage is quite good and her follow-up attack also helps for that. The way you generally build Kafka also very much aligns with the Break playstyle. She can make full use out of every aspect of the solitary healing light cone. If you break the enemy with her, you get an extra lightning DOT that she can detonate. And that's it. The only real other nuance to playing Kafka here is you could potentially replace the sustain with another DOT character, which could pair very well and potentially result in a zero cycle. A DOT detonator that doesn't do as much DOT detonating for a Superbreak team. I'll give you that she's most likely, by all means, definitely even, better than Jing Yuan. And that's gonna be all for me today. I'm going through every character you meet in the tutorial of the game, with many more to cover in the works and just around the corner. Thanks for watching, and catch you on the next shot.